Alexey, you are the host of this meeting. You represent the Moscow, that is the host of this meeting. And Moscow is trying to carry out the synergy between the state and the government and the business within the innovation cluster. And the question is, what are the formats that are involved? Thank you very much for this very nice question. First of all, I would like to greet all the participants and the esteemed delegates. I appreciate very much to participate in this panel. And as Sergei Sobyanin, the mayor of Moscow, said, we don't have the support measures, we have the development measures. So we follow this ideology, and it is very important not to support the companies, but to provide the conditions when the companies would be able to implement their potential. And this is very closely connected with the interconnection and the relation between the big businesses and the technological companies. And this includes the startups that has only began their activities. Or maybe these are technological companies that they have already their own services or products, they have their niches. Nevertheless, for small companies, it is very important to cooperate with the big companies, and this is a challenge. And to a certain extent, this is a Moscow-specific feature. One of the functions of the Moscow cluster, technological cluster, is to provide the connection between these technological companies. Let me tell you how we do it with regard to the big business companies. We have three main pillars. The first pillar is a big network of the pilot testing platforms or sites. This is not a unique practice, and we actually noted this practice in other countries where it is implemented very actively, but in Moscow we are following the maximum practice. And in Moscow, this is the biggest platform. By the end of the year, we believe that this will be already 300 sites or spots. What are they? These are organizations that cover not only the city life, but the economy of the Russian Federation as a whole. This includes transport, logistics, health care, mining, space flights. These can be business organizations, or these can be the city facilities, the urban organizations. They can take your products or services for testing, and in some cases, we even compensate the expenses for the small companies while testing their products. Why we do this? First of all, this allows to reduce the time of the launch of the new technology in the market. We made certain research, and we found that this is speeding up 3 to 3.5 times. Because the company needs to find potential customers, then they persuade them to assume the risks, and if it is infrastructure, then there are definitely some risks for the customers, and the customers are not always ready to assume these risks and to accept these new technological solutions. But our system allows the organizations to form a special structure, and with our technological and administrative support, these organizations are ready to take the new technologies, to test them, and finally, if this technological solution proves to be successful, then these organizations are ready to buy the solutions. And in the 5 years that we've been working, we carried out about 700 pilot tests, and the total volume of the new solutions was about 7 billion rubles. This is similar to the Western approach of living labs, and we managed to combine everything, all the possible features in the big city. We work very actively with this Bear City. This is an innovation urban hub, and this hub claims the ambition of introducing new solutions. If you colleagues present here in the hall, if you have any proposals for the new technologies, we will be happy to test this. And two more observations. In order to get and to find the correct way for the small startups, and sometimes the weak signals are not delivered properly in a business community. So we have a special showcase where we announce what the big corporations can need now and in the future. And this allows the companies to get oriented in the market trends. And finally, when a technological solution or a new technology is close for the implementation, sometimes they have a request for certain solutions or things that yet do not exist in the market. And this is a request for R&D. And this is a big line of activity. And to implement this, we have created a techno-market service. And the customers are ready to go there and to try to finding a promising development. And in return, startups can respond to these requests. So, summing up, our activity is fairly big area of activity, from the development of new ideas to the implementation of them within the Moscow cluster. And we have a digital twin of the Moscow cluster called iMoscow. And we are now trying to go out to the international side. So we're interested in cooperation with our colleagues. Yes, thank you, Alexey. Indeed, this is a very interesting scale. And the next question I would like to make to Mr. Penkalskaia from Africa. Africa is assumed by many as the region of the future growth, but the SAR already is forming the support for the startups. What are the approaches that show the biggest effect in the SAR?
Thank you very much for the opportunity presented to us. I must indicate that we are friends of Moscow. We have good relationship with Skolkovo. We were here a few months ago, and we love the city, and the people here are very friendly. My name again is Dr. Bangani Mpangalasane. I'm the CEO of the Innovation Hub, which is the first accredited science and technology park in Africa. We are an innovation agency that drives economic development, not only from a regional point of view, but we are strategically located to lead research and development, so we are able to come up with products that are changing societal challenges. What we are doing, we've got what we call targeted funding. We take entrepreneurs or startups from ideology, from an idea. We precede the idea. We then provide support, incubation programs that then enable them to succeed, not only, as I said, in South Africa, but to be able to produce products across the globe. We have startups that are doing business across the globe that are exporting technological and innovative products that we have developed at our park. We are a 60-hectare park with manufacturing sites, facilities that enable startups to build their products. We then pilot those products and help them to take them to commercialization. Targeted funding for us, when the idea is proving to be productive, we then facilitate with partners in the private and the public services or the state targeted funding so that their product, they can be delivered in a large scale. We also provide tax incentives for the startups, especially at their early stages where we are assisting them with tax implications and on registering their IPs. Because intellectual property is very important. We work with research institutions, academia, as far as research and development is concerned. As I said, we then take those ideas, incubate them, then they become economically viable. We, as I've mentioned, we've got what we call accelerators or corporate programs, where we assist entrepreneurs to accelerate at that pace, which is the reason one of our entrepreneurs is a speaker today. They've got an innovative microbiology and health products that they are producing not only in South Africa, but they are penetrating the international market. The regulatory sandboxes, from a regulatory point of view, because we are a state entity, we regulate how you do business in South Africa in such a way that it does not affect the startups in a bad way. As an innovation hub, if there are startups here, we also provide soft lending services. Entrepreneurs, because our address and our name carry so much weight, if you are situated within our park, we are providing you an address and quicker access, soft lending, so you are able to penetrate the market, which is in reverse what we are expecting as well, hence our presence here. As my colleague has mentioned, that they are accelerating pilots at a bigger scale. How can South African startups equally penetrate? One of the things we were discussing with Skolkovo was the exchange program. How do we take up your startups and accommodate them in a South African perspective in an exchange program? Equally, how do we then do that in reverse? In that way, we are opening markets and we are providing soft lending. I think the last part for us is to also indicate that we've got relationships. As I said, we are a part of the Association of Science and Technology Park. It's an international body. So our access, just last month, we were in Beijing, where it was an international conference. So not only are you aligning with the Innovation Hub, but you are also aligning with international body, which then also provide access to your markets. I think I will rest here for now. Thank you.
Спасибо большое. Очень заинтересовала меня эта программа.
Thanks a lot. Indeed, I was motivated by this program, this cooperation with the SCO, this exchange of experience, exchange of methodologies, of support, how to provide it. It will be very helpful. Now, let's go from South Africa closer to us, so that as to our convenient, comfortable conditions, we look far, although the solutions may be side by side. Well, you are part of the discussion. It's very interesting. Either can be a barrier or a catalyst for innovations. Belarus, which you represent, plays an important role, your ministry in particular, in shaping the digital world. Can a government not be just a regulator, but also a co-author of the investment? What's your experience you enjoy in that sense? Thank you indeed. In Belarus, we try to set a trend and to get a signal from the government as to what is the demand for certain solutions or areas. But as for regulation, we tailor the model, in particular for startups. It's important not to help, not so much to help as not to interfere. There can be other technological aspects, artificial AI. And our experience says that if you wanted to regulate this area, ask business. And they will write up the rules business would like to see legally. Well, indeed, this filter should be applied by the government, but I think no bureaucrat would sign up an efficient legislation in technologies if he is not, if he not dives in this process. On every day, we are small-sized startups, so we encounter a huge number of various nuances, intricacies. As a public servant would never see in his work. And we have gained some positive experience in that area. We first talk to business, we gather all the wishes, push them through the filter in the interests of the government, and we try to maximize the application of it in legislation, what business has defined. But as for entrepreneurship, innovations, startups, government plays another important role here, in particular in such small countries as Belarus. It's an integrating role and probably more narrower associations. Every startup needs a market. In order to jump to space in a small-sized country, he will not be able to fly as high in a domestic market. Well, through such integrating structures, we need to ensure the going to the markets. Even a small-sized country can occupy small-sized niches and offer those to the market, not to take, but also to offer. And we have gained some experience in Belarus. Traditionally, the overwhelming majority of the companies there had many major customers from the West. And now when this import substitution is in practice, the transiting from one area to another, we have some competencies there, and we could also look more intently at that. Overall, I believe the role of the government as such in providing conditions, proper conditions for the operation of technology companies, the main thing here is not to change the rules of the game. In Belarus, we can boast that the government that was set, the rules that were set 20 years ago has never changed to the worse. And for the business, the tailors its processes, plans, it's the critical thing. We should not support money-wise. Oftentimes, we don't need tax benefits, but just guarantee that the rules that are set for today will last for years and decades. And in Belarus, I would say it's not that easy, but we managed to maintain that level. I believe That's just integrating things as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and others. When you have various instruments and markets on hand, we need to bring together information about all technology opportunities for investment, to provide access to each other and borrow the best from each other. Well, I will not dwell further on this. For us, it's important to have access to various competencies, AI, and other structural things that can afford only major companies like Sberbank. So every country, in that sense, builds certain national things. Many much data cannot be transferred from country to country, and we need an open dialogue for that. Thank you. And I was indeed interested in interesting that Belarus is interested to go with startups to the global market. And first of all, the steadiness of the rules once set, which is important for developing the market business. Well, another experience, another country, another experience that will offer of an interest with Kyrgyzstan traditionally is assigned, said to have the role of a bridge between the West and the East, between major players and local startups. Damerbek, your national investment agency under the president of Kyrgyzstan is like an entry point for the international partners and investors. What is the place in your activity of the development of the technology entrepreneurship? Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome all the participants, to thank the organizers of this highly important and great event. Well, Moscow, as always, brings together not humans only, but continents. And we can see the geography today, very wide geography. I'm impressed. I'd like to share with you our experience. And we, the National Investment Agency and the President of Kyrgyzstan, we are an entry point, like a single window entry, and we give high importance and priority to technology and innovations. And it's important here to understand that the balance between the government and business is highly important. Because without public support, it's important to scale up. And entrepreneurship is impossible economically. It's growth, I mean. And technologically, on the technology platforms, Kyrgyzstan would like to make a disruptive movement forward there, like going over to digital transformation. And our approach is based on 3 points. First, openness. We try to integrate into the international supply chains. Second, security, the data security, and to establish the national digital infrastructure, and also to provide opportunities to talents, designers, developers. And we understand, of course, that AI is not just a tool, but it's a basis for the future. And for this, in our country, we develop a development strategy of AI. Calculation and computing centers are set up, and our own AI platforms are launched. Well, as for the machine translation and so on. I'd like to emphasize that we do not copy solutions, but we try to develop our own products while giving high focus to information security and training. I would like to say that in 2022, we passed a bill on creative industry, and it started its work in 2024. And we, by September 2025, will see more than 110 companies operating, representing various areas like IT, animation, music, and of course they go up to a high level, and we are happy with that. I'd like to note that as to our national agency, at present, and as part of our delegation, we have Deputy Minister of Science and Education, He is here, our esteemed guest. We also wrote up a bill on creative industries, on innovations, and we'll work proactively and create conditions for startups. It's important to provide legal framework for them and to create conditions for its development. And of course, looking through the lens of investments, we work intensively. This year, we passed a new bill on investment, another bill on private-public partnership, and it's also important on PPP, because we see that there is high competition in drawing investment, creating proper conditions for that. And Kyrgyzstan, of course, does not stay aside. We also move, and this new law about investment allows to implement such projects well. It's very simple and mobile law, and the best conditions are created for our investors. Overall, I'd like to say that we also high-tech park. We have many residents there, and we have an interesting slogan for that: live in Kyrgyzstan, work with the whole world. And year on year, this park is increasingly popular. I'd like to invite the participants, companies, corporations, public corporations, my colleagues, to visit Bishkek and to familiarize with the conditions that happen there. So, as for the Cabinet of Ministers, high work is being done, and the result of that will be that over the past 9 months we have seen the growth of our economy of 11% compared with 2024. We, of course, are happy with that. And with these, thanks to these solutions and companies that are proactive, we succeed, and we would like to continue that work. This year, under the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, I would like to use the opportunity and to invite major companies. This year there will be large-scale events, and using this opportunity, I'd like to appeal to the organizers of this event. Next year, well, the summit startups could be held also in Bishkek. Why not? Bishkek is always happy when Moscow is happy, and we are always proactive. And it's quite legitimate that the Kyrgyz delegation today is actively participating in this event. And I would like to suggest to our colleagues to consider the opportunity next year, when Kyrgyzstan will chair at the Shanghai Organization, to also to hold such summit in Bishkek. It will be an extension of this one. Many thanks, and we use this opportunity to invite to work with us proactively. I also my colleague there, Daniel Saburov. He represents CIS as a whole, the Committee of Independent States. Thank you. It's an excellent slogan that you have. It is certainly responsive in the souls of startups. You touched upon the idea of innovations in South Africa. Now, let's go to the east. I'd like to ask the question to Khalil of Nigeria, in what the major, largest economy in Africa. How will the technology will depend? It depends a lot. Well, you can correct me, the whole continent will depend on that. And as for Nigeria, sciences, engineering, technologies, Nigeria, how do you bring together national development and the interests of startups, who many of those who try to go to the global market, though?
Good afternoon, Madam Moderator. It's good to be here in Moscow, first time in Moscow. Thanks to my friend Vlad for inviting me. My name is Khalil. I come from the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure. And what we basically do is technology transfer, local and international, domestication, where we co-invest, do co-research with private companies to bring technology to Nigeria and Africa as a whole. And then we also push for commercialization, for sustainability. Like the moderator mentioned, Nigeria is the largest economy in Africa and the most populous, but not only the most populous, also one of the most vibrant population because of the number of youths. So it's a very, very active, country. And, everyone now is looking at Africa with regards to resources and potential, for growth. So in terms of our activity, we realize that we have to combine three things in our national development plan. Number one is innovation, technology, as well as entrepreneurship, to be able to bring all these three things, together. And our mandates from NASENI exactly allow us to do that. Let me share three key areas in which we were able to achieve that. Number one is policy and infrastructural alignment. We understand that policy cannot work in isolation, and it's one of the main reasons why we co-invest together with private sector. We just don't tell you come and invest in a sector, or we tell you come and invest in our country, but we co-invest together with you so that we understand the pains and make policies that are very much appropriate. So for example, in our renewable energy strategy, where we develop solar solutions, we also give opportunities for entrepreneurs to build products that speak to the local environment. So this enables us, to reduce dependency on importation, but also provide opportunities for both local and international investors. We also try to bridge the market between government and market needs. One of the things we do is whenever you do domestication with us, we do what we call the co-branding. So we put our name side by side, by our products, and that automatically gives you access, to the government market without, too much marketing. There's a company that came to Nigeria doing medical consumables in partnership with us. And today that company accounts for about 80% of the medical test kits because the government is the biggest buyer and we are co-investors. So even though it's government, private, but it automatically becomes a G2G, kind of relationship. So this way, national objectives, like food security, becomes an immediate opportunity for entrepreneurs, to be able to tap into. And the third ways is, we are scaling beyond borders. Today, if you look at the top banks performing in Africa, or the banks that have moved, that have expanded their territory, most of them are Nigerian banks. And mainly is because we understand the market. You'll be surprised at the level of, technological advancements in Africa. Because if you are operating in a place that has infrastructural gap, you have to be super, super creative to pull up something. Anytime I travel to Europe or America and I see their banking application, we're far, far ahead, and it's something we've been doing, for the past 10, 15 years. So leveraging on, our expertise, also, our experience helps a lot with penetration into those markets. So in conclusion, what we try to do is to marry the Nigeria's development goals with startups' interest so that they have immediate access to markets. We also co-invest with them so that we understand their pains. We are not making policies in isolation. And then we also ensure that there is investment protection, so that there is sustainability, and we're also investing in key areas that really that will really bring impact in the African context. So thank you very much, and this is an opportunity for me to invite you to Nigeria to come and invest together with NASENI. God bless.
Спасибо большое. Кстати, что касается развития банковских приложений, да, банковского хай-тека, тоже постоянно...
Well, talking about the bank high-tech and Europe, indeed, representatives from Europe were saying that we are quite ahead of other countries. I would like to ask you, Alexey, some countries are very interested in involving local startups in activities. What about the opinion of Moscow? Yes, I think this is a very good experience, and I hope that we'll talk to some participants on this. But by the way, there are companies, small technological companies, they are interested in going out other markets. First of all, this is IT or IoT solutions that can be scaled up very fast. And we really support these companies to penetrate other markets. And moreover, in order to develop our city, we do not want to limit other startups, and the startups from the friendly countries are welcome. Well, I see that we are looking forward to the partnership. Yes, absolutely. Correct. This is what this session serves for. Now, as to the soft landing, I'm sure that one of the practical results of the summit will be signing an agreement that or agreements that would help us to promote these ideas and initiatives. Well, as to the startups, how to make them global, let us continue to discuss this with Manpreet Singh. Manpreet, indeed, India is not only a big country, but also a country where thousands of new startups appear every day. And the Indian Chamber of International Business indeed helped them to penetrate other markets. We are talking about the conditions in India when this is a very fast-growing segment, the economy. What are the conditions for startups?
It's a pleasure and honor to be here and talking to all of you. The Indian Chamber of International Business is present in 42 countries. So we are learning a lot from what is happening around the world. And it was very interesting for us. For example, we've been working with Russia since about 10 years. One of our oldest partners is Skolkovo, where we partnered with the soft landing program of Skolkovo for Russian startups to enter the Indian market. So we've been doing this a really long time. We've been working with Africa, Latin America, and a lot of other countries. So we find that there is a lot of learning, and the one thing, if you ask me, what we have learned is that you should forget everything that you know about if you're talking about innovation. You have to start from zero every time, every country, every place. Because whatever you think you have known becomes zero suddenly. And in fact, when you look at the whole world and what has happened in the last few years, this is true. So today you have friends, tomorrow they are not your friends anymore, and vice versa. And you have to reinvent the wheel and create your own technologies, nationalize, create your assets from the beginning, and you have to leverage friendships and partnerships. That's where it's all about, where we say that we need to come together and be part of an ecosystem. When we talk about India and the cooperation with the BRICS and SCO, that's very interesting because we are kind of the friends of the world, if I may say so. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi had given the, we say Nara, that means the clarion call for Vasudev Kutumbakam. That means that the world is one family. And that is very important. That was the main theme of the G20 when India was chairing. Why it is important is that it's not only friends, but it's also when you're in a family, you might have different points of views. But you don't really fight with your father and mother and leave your house and go. You sit, you let it go, you let the tide pass on, you wait for a good day to come and you start where you left off. So that's what you are supposed to do even in business and the times today, where you know that you have something good, you know that this can survive time and be tested. It is just that today is not a good day. So you sit quiet, you find new partners, you sit across and you wait for the disagreements to cool down. So that's what we learned when we talk about partnerships and we talk about cooperation with the BRICS. The BRICS and SCO, when you put it together, it is more than nearly 90% of the world's consumption if you really look at it. And we are evolving at such faster rate. You can see from here, Africa, you find CIS, if 20 years ago somebody would have said that in Africa that, oh, our banking system is much better than Europe, imagine what reaction would have been there. But today I'm proud to say that that's true. You come to India, we have the largest ecosystem for digital payments, which is the UPI. We are doing billions of transactions every day. So that's phenomenal. And the kind of infrastructure that goes behind that is also what is important. Now, when we talk about startups, we have to understand that India as a country has millions of startups. And not all of them reach commercialization, which is very important. So an idea might be good, but reaching commercialization is the most important thing. Otherwise, you can do something in your backyard, show it to your friend, and then you are moving on. So that does not help anybody, that does not help the ecosystem. So that is where organizations like Moscow Export Center, Moscow Innovation Cluster, where you bring the whole ecosystem to these startups, that yes, you have created something, we are going to help you. Regulation is very important for governments, but over-regulation does always create a problem. So there is a free hand that needs to be given to a certain extent. And that is where, when you're doing things within an ecosystem, when you're doing things at the central area, for example, in this building, you have 100 startups, you know what they're doing. You get to learn from them. And the policy can be based on similar structures. You can't really have a policy out of nowhere. So you need to engage the industry, you need to engage the startups. And startups are not really always small. For example, India has one of the world's largest startups called Jio Mobile Systems. It developed its own mobile technology, it developed its own 5G technology, and it is now one of the world's largest companies. So startups need not always be small, but they need not always be big. That is also important. It can be, I will give you an example of the ecosystem in India, where we have Startup India. Of course, we give tax breaks and benefits, but the policy is over a 10-year period. So you are a startup for 10 years when you start, because we understand that overnight things don't happen. And that is very important. When you take these startups, and for example, you are in college or you're in school and you create a startup, you have that 10-year time to move ahead through your life and learning. A lot of startups, when we engage with, we ask them the first question, oh, what do you want to do? Where do you see yourself 10 years down the line? And the moment a startup says that, oh, we want to sell it off and go, so we'd say thank you and bye-bye, because you don't trust your own technology, you don't trust your own future, you just want an exit. The second thing what we ask them is, when we talk, okay, what do you want to do? Oh, we want to become the Microsoft, we want to become Amazon, we want to become this. Okay, in how much time? 2 years, 1 year. I mean, you have to understand that these things have come over 30 years, 40 years. And then they say, no, Bill Gates started from a garage. Yes, he did, but he took 30 years and 40 years to reach where he is. Do you have that kind of patience? So this is what we have to explain to our startups, that do not read the newspapers and see that so many billions are being invested. They are at various stages. It is for you and me as part of the ecosystem to explain this to the startups and not have unrealistic expectations. Because the moment they know that, okay, they will have to work, the non-serious ones would go out. Additionally, the government would save a lot of capital that they are putting behind these startups for a very short period of time. And then the government should also know when to stop. For example, for a first round of funding, initial funding, which is the smallest generally, the second round, you should always send these startups to the open market to raise capital. Because a commercialization is what the others say. You can push somebody to work, but you can't make them work. And that is what is important. So when you're talking about the ecosystem, as government, as BRICS, as cooperation, we have to ensure that you come together as a system to create value. And that is what is important.
Спасибо большое, очень интересное выступление. Кирилл Викторович, мне, кстати, показалось, что отчасти созвучно с вашим.
Thank you very much, and I thought that this was very interesting, and I think this sounded in the same line with other statements. As you said, it is very important not to prevent the startups, not to hinder their activities. But I think Manpreet Singh said that this is a very interesting idea. This is important to understand startups that they should not expect big successes maybe in 1-2 years. Well, in our situation, when we were calculating the conditions for startups, we understood that we do not give their profit, etc., and we should keep startup hungry. Well, sounds kind of cruel, yes, but the point is that if we give the tax breaks, etc., then it is not a startup. And on the other hand, if we provide support for a startup, it should not last for 10 years. We normally think in categories of 2 years. For 2 or 3 years, we help them. We follow them very closely. Every Saturday, we get together with them. We control what they're doing. Well, kind of cruel approach, but harsh approach, but it gives its results. Because in the present world, you cannot sit and wait the results for years. The technology is run very fast. For example, you think about an information system, but when you complete it, then nobody needs it. So, on one hand, the conditions should be very strict, and then they want to grow. Well, indeed, many companies, many startups want to become world corporations. And I would like to ask Anna Ryabova. The Park of High Technologies indeed is now a legend on the post-Soviet space. But it is growing and transforming, responding to new challenges. How do you provide the competition? Well, thank you for this very positive evaluation. Maybe when you say that we are a legend, then it is not completely correct. In some cases, we were going bravely ahead. We did not even waited for choosing the companies. We began to cooperate with different countries, with different companies, and then we made new advances. Through this, we became very advanced in cryptocurrencies, and now we have more than 40 lines of activities. And this is 3% of our GDP, 60% of our expectations, and 60,000 employees in our companies. We are not going to stop because there are many companies that are trying to catch up. So we try to keep brave. And as to startups, we're not waiting until startups get into teams and will come to us. We have a more proactive position. We are searching for these guys. We look for them in the universities. And our slogan is give us a surprise and give us inspiration, and we will include you into our regulations. We're waiting for you, we tell to the startups. Thank you very much. This is very inspiring, and thank you for your work with the young and future startups. We have 5 minutes left, and I want to make a brief Q&A session. One question from my side, one fast answer from your side. What are the measures of support in high demand in your country? And this is the question of our short Q&A. So what, in your opinion, is the request and demand of the technological entrepreneurship and startups? Let us begin with Alexey. Well, two main tools or two main requests. One is if a company is young, they need some funding as a fuel for develop their projects, and this is kind of please keep short. And second is the market for the sales market, where to sell the products. Bangani Mpangalasane, what is your opinion? What are the measures of support are in high demand in your technological entrepreneurs, in your startups? We have a very brief Q&A.
No, thank you very much. I think to be brief, I agree with my colleagues. A startup needs some holding hand, but at some point we must let go. What we are providing, we are not only providing financial support, we've got mentorship program. Startups that have succeeded over the years, we've got tailored programs that startups, they are now being mentored, and we are also emphasizing on skills development, skills of the future, so that we don't find our startups being stuck in an ancient kind of thinking. So these are in demand, and this we are prioritizing so that we can have startups that are skillful.
Отлично, то есть не только финансовая поддержка. Кирилл Викторович.
This is not only financial support. Yes, I think every next speaker should just add 1 point or 2 points to this list. Well, first of all, sales markets. Second is additional funding, support among the partners. The third is to develop the entrepreneurship skills. And it is important for the government institutions, whether we are cultivating an engineer or an entrepreneur, because only a startup can be if these two persons get together. And it is another important point is to calculate the next steps for years or for decades. Yes, I agree with my colleague. And as a matter of fact, the territory of our republic is the technological park. We gave the tax breaks, and we have now the only tax for profit tax, and we are now developing the new law on the venture financing. I think the government will provide necessary support. Khalil, Suleiman, Halilu, what, in your opinion, are the support measures for Nigerian startups?
Well, I think the key thing is domestication, and that first light, the first crack, to get into the market. Because in the Nigerian market, we don't have a problem of demand. It's always a supply problem. Every company in Nigeria is facing a supply, problem. How do you keep up with the market? So the key thing is that first initial start, to understand the market and crack it, and then scaling shouldn't be an issue.
Fast track. Мне понравилось это выражение. Спасибо большое. Манприт Сингh.
I think the most important is that you need a mentor who has been in the industry, who has seen it all, to tell you what mistakes not to make. Of course, you will make a mistake, things will go wrong, but when you have a guide to support you, and that is what the Indian ecosystem, the states of India, the center of India, they have this mentor development program from the industry. So that is one of the most important things that you get to learn when you are young age, what mistakes not to make. And of course, there's an additional issue that is in India. For example, I come from the city of Mumbai, where the real estate is very expensive. So most of the startups say that, okay, just give us a space to work out from, and we don't even want the money. So every place has a unique positive and negative. So I think that's what we need to look at.
И не бойтесь ошибаться. Анна Николаевна. Мне сложнее всех.
And now, Anna, I'm the last one. I think it is very easy. Easy to enter the market and easy to cope with the new trends. Thank you very much for this discussion. And indeed, we noted that the position of the representatives of different countries, they coincided in their opinions. Nevertheless, they had some specific approaches in their countries and specific approaches to support of the startups in their countries.